forgotten. This is Harbor Town.
Is that broadcasting?
Yes.
Harbor Town is a fall
Yes.
series from Miniature Building Authority, the leader in tabletop gaming scenery. Unique, flexible, and playable, Harbor Town will take your games to it.
No, that's the other show. There it is. Aha! Alright, so now I can see chat. If anyone's there. They're not yet. Yep. Awesome. So it sounds like you guys and I all started around the same time. You know, playing D&D.
Yeah, pretty much. The gentleman that Jay alluded to, both John and Tim, I used to live right around the corner from them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I actually got introduced to D&D in general. It was in the second grade, and John, obviously the only adult in the room, led us through with first level characters G1.
Oh, good lord.
So obviously he was still learning the game at the time too, and it was just much more about the story than really anything else.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was in Portland, Oregon. I didn't know what a war game was.
Sure.
And so how Gary and how Dave Arneson wrote that stuff, I had no concept of the assumptions that they were making about who was playing their game.
Mm-hmm.
Not me. I was in seventh grade at that time, and I'd see I didn't understand how you would move a miniature on a table,
Right.
And so for us, they were representational of kind of the area they were in. We didn't do exact measurements. We didn't, we tried weapon speed at one time and went nope, that's not going to work, through that. And then we didn't understand, why are you level limiting demi-humans? There's all these assumptions now that, having read or listened to some of the people that helped create this game, and talk about why they did things the way they did, oh, that makes much more sense now. And the language of gaming that exists now, that we just had to feel our way along and make it up.
Right.
You just made shit up. And then we started getting Dragon subscriptions and reading the Sage Advice columns and the letters columns, and because we didn't have conventions to go to to see how other people were doing it. We just did it, and we all took turns DMing. Some only once because they couldn't be trusted with that duty.
Yeah. So
I remember. This is how old school I am. I remember the first magic item my character ever had was a cursed item because no one could take it away from me. That was awesome. And so, it's just there's all this stuff that we did. And then, I went to college and I met another group and they played a completely different way, and it was kind of a revelation. Well, actually, high school, I met people that played, but we played a lot of other things as well. That's when I got introduced to Champions and Shadowrun, Cyberpunk 2020. We tried Aftermath. Good lord, that was.
Oh, see, we loved Aftermath. Tim, that was honestly, out of all the games that Tim was really good at being a GM. He would always have you on the edge of your seat.
We tried Morrow Project, if you remember that one.
No, I can't say I've heard of that.
With sci-fi, our go-to was, of course, Traveler. The first edition Traveler. We tried Space Opera. That rule set was terrible. And then we tried Bushido, but none of us understood Japanese culture. And so a lot of the assumptions in that game, what? It wasn't go to encyclopedia, you didn't get an idea at all about what Japanese culture was. So and we were watching those films, and so like Seven Samurai, what? Rashomon. So yeah, it was really, really hard. I mean, I understood what a kung fu flick was at that point.
Yep.
But like that wasn't Bushido.
Right.
Bushido also was like one of those really super rules heavy games where you're like, is this even playable? And then there was Harn.
I've heard of Harn. I've never played Harn, but I've heard of Harn.
So Harn, if you play it as written, the combats are so brutal. It's not usually the combat that's tricky, though that can happen. It's the infection rules that you don't get treated for that kill you, believe it or not. And it's just like, that was a little too realistic. But it's it was an interesting thing, and the art and the maps in that stuff is insane. If you're doing like a pseudo medieval kind of fantasy world, that stuff slots right in really easy, and it's probably some of the best research stuff I've ever seen in terms of what a castle would look like, and like what a medieval town would look like, or even a city. And there was some real thought that went into it. Unlike Invincible City State of the Overlord, which is like
that was another one of Tim's really, really great ventures into doing this. Was actually running that. I'm sure Jay has alluded to it many times already.
Yeah, my friend Will loves People.
Coming on. Early, a minute early. Where's your pictures? Hold on one sec. 1 sec. Oh, that was my fault.
There you go.
There we go. Hello. Welcome to another wonderful Gabbin at Lord Peakshaven. I'm JK Lord Gazumba. I got DM Marco with me, and our very, very special guest tonight. He doesn't really need an introduction, but we're going to give him time to go through his background, and a good friend of both of ours, Bryan Blumklotz. Bryan, thanks a lot for coming on, man. I'm so psyched about this. I have been. You've been like trying to hold me back from enthusiasm on this. So,
enthusiasm is good, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for coming on, and we're going to. Bryan's Heraldry's running on the side. We're gonna bounce around a lot. Please ask questions. Hey, Rocks, what's up? Nightheart Gaming's on. I saw some other people hopping on. People will be coming on as we go here. We got even Rocinante's on tonight. That's a fun one. So, Bryan, tell us some background about how you got into gaming, and where you are at this point in life, and how you got doing the heraldry.
I was bored. No. So I grew up in Portland, Oregon. Born and bred. Sorry for shaking the table there.
No, you're right.
And my family, of course, played the traditional games: Parcheesi, Sorry, Risk, Monopoly. All those fun things. Poker, Tripoli, dominoes. Poker was a blood sport in my family. Awesome. Uno became a blood sport in my family. But I didn't really discover gaming as a hobby until summer of 1979. I was out at a science camp by the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry called Camp Hancock out in the High Plains Desert of Eastern Oregon. And in my A-frame, almost every night, all the counselors would gather, and they started playing this game I had never seen before. And I later learned was a hybrid of chivalry and sorcery, AD&D, which at that time only the Monster Manual and the Player's Guide was out, and Arduin Grimoire. The one, especially the one that had the Clint Eastwood ripoff art on the front. Of course, there was a techno dwarf in the party who had a hand grenade and would never use it because he was so scared that he would blow it with that one item. He was just saving it for the right moment. So I'm sitting there watching this game being played, and it was basically done theater of the mind because there was no miniatures that you could do out in the desert there. No one was bringing those out to the camp. and I was blown away. And so by the fall, I went back, and my chess club became the D&D club. So in 7th grade, I started playing D&D, and then running D&D, and then of course we did D&D, we did Traveler. I mean, the list goes on and on. It was like all kind of this early stuff. And, yeah, we were just trying to figure it out because there was no one there was no video to watch. There was no conventions that we were going to where we could see this played. We just read the rules and tried to figure it out. And none of us had wargaming backgrounds. We weren't miniatures players, so we had no idea with some of the terms and the stuff they were talking about. And that was my exposure to D&D. And then, Greyhawk specifically, I kind of read the background stuff. Like, when we did the G series, you'd read the background and we'd be talking about the Duchy of Jeff or I can't remember, it's been a while since I've read the mods. And, set in the world of Greyhawk, I'm like, well, what's that? And then you started reading the Dragon magazine articles, and like they'd start teasing, Gary would start teasing out what the world of Greyhawk was. And then the folio dropped in 1980, and I was in love. And that kind of like cemented, that it's like being a Doctor Who fan, whoever the doctor is at that time, when you see it for the first time, you kind of imprint on
Tom Baker.
Yeah, right. But my wife is Tom Baker, but actually she was before Tom Baker.
John Pertwee.
Yeah. And but everyone kind of has their favorite, and so like for me, Greyhawk kind of became the game world, my favorite game world. It's always been the one I've kind of come back to at some point, even when I've strayed away from it and tried other things, whether it's my own world or someone else's. And it just pretty prototypical D&D gamer nerd kind of kid growing up. And I went to high school, learned even more games, met a new group of people, learned some new ways of playing. Went to college, yet again another whole experience. That's where I got exposed to Dragonlance, and my lifelong hatred of Kender was born. Where I now have a kill all Kender as a DM or a player.
Oh yeah.
Nuke him from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then, Living Greyhawk happened, and I was heavily involved in that in my region and did a lot to support that. And then when that ended, I wound up kind of doing things more locally, and I ran D&D encounters for stores for a real long time. And then kind of left that for a while when 4th edition ended and the playtest for 5th edition was starting. I was just kind of burnt out on role-playing games in general. I took some time off, and then I discovered my heartbreaker love of a card game, Netrunner, had been reborn, and I basically organized and ran that from 2012 to about last year.
Yeah, I heard that it's done now, right? Is that
that
sucks.
Fantasy Flight Games and Hasbro WotC couldn't come to terms. Asmodee, they're all competitors. They couldn't come to terms of the licensing, and that went away. And then as of October last year, that game is officially done. Now there's a fan-run organization that's doing some stuff with that, and I'm a little bit involved with that. But I've been kind of refocusing back into role-playing games. I'm actually in a weekly campaign as a player. I'm trying to get my stuff set up to restart a Greyhawk campaign in 5th edition. But it's all cycles. I have to say it's always great to go out and try something new, get a new perspective. There's always great ideas to steal from all types of games, card games, board games, other role-playing games. There's always something to learn, even if it's like, that's something I don't want to do, I just learned that. Yeah, and so that's kind of my background.
How did you start with the Heraldry?
Well, kind of go back to that folio in 1980, as a history buff and then later a history major, I kind of love the world of Greyhawk because it's kind of written in this pseudo historical style that I was kind of used to reading, when I'm doing history classes. And then, but one of the things I imprinted on early were the shields on the cover of that folio. And I didn't know what heraldry was at that time. I just thought it looked really cool and it was very evocative. I have to say, I can't really talk to Gary about what his thought process was behind some of that stuff, but like the arms for the city of Greyhawk are amazing. They're iconic to all of us, right? But I mean, if you look at that, if you look just at the shield without the helm on it and without all the fixings that I've put on it before, that shield kind of sums up the city of Greyhawk. It makes a visual statement that kind of just summarizes it all. You have the broken chains symbolizing the freedom. You have the keep, because it's a walled city. And then you have the gold coins, essentially those gold plates at the bottom, which is commerce, greed, whatever. And that really,
Whoops.
Yep.
There we go. Let me go to them.
Right. So like if right now you can't see it because the helm kind of covers it up, but those two chains they're broken. They're not.
There you go. You can see it on
There
that.
you go. You're right down there. And so that symbology, back when I saw that, I had no understanding of what that all meant. But that's like kind of like one of the most perfect statements about something. It tells you a lot about that place in a very, very tight form. It would take paragraphs to describe all that, in text. And to me, that's just amazing. And like, what is the hawk, right? Why is it red and white mantling? What does the helm mean? All these questions, and if you don't know anything about heraldry, it made me curious.
Right.
And so that's kind of like the first taste of it. I don't think I really, I loved it, but I didn't really. You didn't have the internet in those days, so it's not like I go put up on Wikipedia what's heraldry, and what was in my encyclopedias or what was in the library was pretty limited. I learned a little bit more when I took medieval history in college, but it wasn't really until I joined the SCA back in the 80s, kind of mid-late 80s, that I really understood what the purpose of heraldry was and learned something about it in terms of technical details of heraldry. I was not an SCA herald, but I immediately understood when I saw it, like, oh, that's what that's about. And that's when I really started learning something about it. And then when I left the SCA by the early 90s and stopped playing with those people to go do other things, I still kept researching heraldry. I accumulated a library of books, and and when the internet came around, I started looking through that, and it's all self-taught.
That's awesome.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want to tell everyone online, please stick in, because you will see tonight, and a lot of the heraldry we're showing on the side, Bryan has done, some new stuff. You will see brand new, never been seen before in public, Knight of Ulick heraldry that Bryan's created for us. So please sit by till roughly a half hour before the show's over, and we're going to show some really cool new stuff. And I am so psyched. And Bryan is just the evolution. How did you evolve into doing such ornate, things? And Mark, if you have any questions, please jump in at any time, man.
No, absolutely. Go ahead, Bryan.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in terms of my art style, I consider myself kind of a collagist. I know I'm kind of being self-deprecating there. The reality is that I can't draw worth a lick. Okay. It's, and I really tried. I was trying to find, free usable art, and then eventually I stumbled across a site called Armorial Gold, which was a library of vector art, heraldic vector art. And I think I have something like 5,000 to 6,000 individual pieces from them that I purchased. And And then what I did is I self-taught myself how to use Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop to combine those pieces and color, to do the colors. And I've actually now started to actually create my own elements because I've learned how to do that. Now, most of what I do is I take existing elements, either whole cloth, or I alter them if I need to make some adjustments to them for the fantasy aspects. So like when the Celine image comes up and you see that kind of cherubic fairy creature, that is me layering a bunch of, that's a cherub from Armorial Gold, some butterfly wings I found online, some free clip art, and then playing with the colors, and I altered the ears to make them more pointed with using Illustrator. And so that was a lot of work, right? But most of the elements that are in the shield came straight out of Armorial Gold. And really what I do is I play with the composition of it, and I think about the story behind all the elements in it. I would actually go and do research about whatever was available about it. So like if you see the shield I did for Dumadin, which is that blue shield with the blue cross and the gold harp on it.
Nope, I just went by it. Hold on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you just
I'll get right there. There you go.
Yeah, that's that's from the ashes, and Dumadin just happened to be in part of my region of living Greyhawk, and so I had an interest in it, and so I said I can do something with that. But then I had to think about why would dwarves have human heraldry, and then I kind of there's a whole story about what I did with that, whereas I said dwarves really the heraldry that we see in the world of Greyhawk, the way I conceptualize it, is that these are human heralds that have interpreted other people's heraldry. So like that round shield with that you see down there with all the runes around it, that would be more traditional, kind of dwarvish style.
Okay.
And if I had more artistic talent, I'd probably alter like the cross and make it a little more, I'd dwarfify it a little bit more. But I had the tools at the time. That was done in 2007, and I was just starting to learn stuff. And so I just, part of it was I had to come up with a story for why everything was this human-based heraldry, even though I'm dealing with stuff from elves and dwarves and potentially halflings and gnomes and whatnot. So my story is that humans really find heraldry important, and even if a particular group of people don't have their own heraldry, they'll assign some to them so that they can put something on the map or the documents. Or they'll take what kind of symbols those guys are using and interpret it through the lens of heraldry. And if you were to actually go to those lands, what they would show you would be completely different from what I'm doing. And so that's kind of how I framed that back in 2007, 2008. And I've kind of moved forward with that. And then I've kind of evolved that thinking is, as I've studied heraldry, I've realized that most of what we know in the US about heraldry is influenced by English heraldry, which is very structured and, has some very definitive opinions about what heraldry is and what purpose it is and the legalness of it. And that is not so true in France or Germany or Iceland or Finland or Sweden or Eastern Europe. All those cats had their own takes on heraldry. They shared a lot, but there was kind of motifs and colors and creatures that were used in those that were very, very common to those groups and not so much in all these others. And they had different conceptions. For example, the Germans had house marks, which don't really exist in English heraldry. And so, but if you don't read German, and I haven't really seen a good translation about house marks, you aren't going to know that. It doesn't exist. So, what's that sound?
Oh, not sure.
Okay. It seems gone away.
But Bryan, I have one question for you. You were talking about some of the research it is that you've done. Mm-hmm. What are your main sources that you actually use, Greyhawk and otherwise, for the backstory lines that you utilize?
Primarily, I go to, if I can, I go to stuff that Gygax wrote, because that's usually pretty tight. And it gives you a lot of room to maneuver because it doesn't over-explain. It gives you just enough to get whet your appetite and get you interested. And I try to do that with my Heraldry as well, is I don't try to over-explain it. And then,
I'm going to break down.
Sergeant stuff is pretty good. I don't agree with everything that's in it, but let's face it, he did a huge amount of it, and some of Sean K. Reynolds' stuff.
And so you had this foreman. If you've seen anything, Gary's stuff was Colonel Plato on EN World and other forums. And so someone asked him on Piper, hey, did Mordecai have a shield? And Gary described it. He didn't have a picture of it. He just gave the lozenge, Heraldry, which was purple, 2 lightning bolts gold crossed, and that was all he said. And when he died
Never got to meet the man, for all the things that he brought into my life was that I would create Mordecai's Shield and publish it. And that's what I did. And so occasionally I'll go outside regular sources. And then some of my stuff, I just make it up. There just is nothing. One of the upsides and downsides of how Gary did things is there's these huge gaps. Even in the heraldry that's on the, there's just something like, Hardby does not exist. No one's, in the many years, since 1980, no one has created a shield for Hardby. No one's described a shield for Hardby. And eventually I decided, because that's where I'm basing my campaign of, I'm going to create a shield for Hardby. And I did, and that's purely my invention. I use some colors from the Wild Coast, but how that came together and what it looks like, all me. And you trying to find it? There. So yeah, I mean, that Lotus, I wanted something very different, but I wanted something really strong, and that just, really just pops right off the page. And so that's kind of my gift to the world of Greyhawk, is to create those things that don't exist. Same thing happened with the Knights Protectors. I know someone created one that eventually got published for Little Greyhawk, but I didn't really like it. It didn't make sense to me in terms of the background of the Knights Protectors. And so I created something that kind of harkened back to the French coat of arms, the gold fleur-de-lis on a blue background in a pattern. I think it's going to be the top one, because there you go. So that semi pattern, which means seated, meaning like you spread it across there. The numbers don't matter. It's just the pattern on the shield. And that blue background. So that's really kind of meant to echo that classic French coat of arms with the fleur-de-lis. Only it has the RD sun on it. And then what you see around that's a knight's chain around the shield, a knight's collar. Mm-hmm. So when the knight, we've talked about this for the Knights of Ulick, is when you were invested as a knight, you would get this chain put around your neck, and that would be symbolic of the order. And so one of the things I did with, so for example, the story of the Knights Protectors as it was written that I've seen is that one of the overkings was on, the emperors of the Great Kingdom was on the road and was ambushed, and farmers and townsfolk came to his aid, and the survivors after that battle was won were elevated to knighthood and made the Knight Protectors. And so the elements that I put in that chain were size and wheat, because the story they tell themselves is we came from this lowly background, right? And so instead of it being all these like classic powerful pieces, they say, no, we remember where we came from. Now, later in their history, none of those guys were peasants, right? They've been ennobled, and that the organization, but the story they tell themselves is this is where we came from, and it's part of their mythology. Okay. All right. So there is some, actually, I'm getting, my wife is telling me there is some, the sound is good, but we're getting some static and fuzz occasionally.
It's me with the reverb on the mic. I'm going to be doing push to talk on my mic all night, so I'll fix it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what it is. All right. It's your mic. All right.
Yep.
Anyway, so you get the idea. It's like that's kind of like the story. I read this story about the Knights Protectors, and that influenced how I built that chain. Right now, I made choices. There was no one telling me that that's what it looked like. That's just kind of that was an evolution over time. Yeah. So that picture up above there is what a knight's collar would look like on someone after they've been invested. Anyway, so that's kind of like how I view heraldry. So I want to kind of swing briefly back where I was talking about the differences between English and German and all that. So one of the things I've been thinking about is heraldry is not monolithic in the world of Greyhawk in my eyes. It really kind of grew up in parallel within the Great Kingdom and the Kiewish Empire, because both of those were where the Iridians and the Sul mixed into two great kingdoms. And there was a reason that they needed this symbology, for battlefield to identify things. And then they ran into each other and cross-pollinated. And so the Kiewish heraldry is going to be a little bit different from the Great Kingdom and vice versa. And then I have a third influence, which is the tribal flan stuff, which I learned. So do you have the one that I did for the Duchy of 10? I think it'll probably be on the bottom because it's just a single shield.
One sec here.
Sure, no problem. So I was trying to figure out, what does that symbol of the Duchy of 10 shield symbolize? What does it mean? How do you even talk about that in heraldry, right? And I couldn't, so you see that symbol there, and you're like, what is that? And then I was reading through Dragon's Foot because I was doing a big Google search, and that popped for the Duchy. Someone else was asking what that meant. And someone brought up this concept called tagmas, which comes from kind of Mongolian, Turkic cultures. And essentially what those are originally were brands, something that you could cut into stone or on, brand on something, an animal, to designate your property. And that those symbols had to be pretty simple. You couldn't get too complicated. And so my idea is that the nomadic flan used those kind of symbols, and that the reason you see that in the Duchy of 10 is those are the quote unquote civilized flan, and they brought some of that culture with them. They incorporated it into their heraldry, right? And so, and to truth be told, house marks in Germany, it's tagmas or something similar to it, are very common in Eastern European heraldry, which I just learned about this last year. And it's very common in Turkic and Mongolian and even Arabic cultures to have some of these things in them. And I'm just starting to learn about it because I'm literally reading ethnographs from anthropology journals and whatnot on this stuff, because it's not something that's really talked about in Northern European heraldry, and because it's not really a part of it. Except for the Germans, who literally have come up with a system to describe every line and angle of a tagma for their house, the house sigils, because Germans are all about precision. But this also exists in Iceland. There's stuff in Sweden and Finland that I've seen. There's probably stuff in Norway. Why is that on? And so, that's something else I'm considering. Like now I have a way to think about that. Now, these are just these are just some thoughts. I haven't really kind of codified this down. I'm trying to figure out what are the motifs of the Great Kingdom in the Kiewish, what are the influences from the Baklunish and the Flan in the north from the barbarians, quote unquote. And, is there a difference in Sterich and in the Duchy of Jeff, where there's huge Flan influence in their heraldry? What's that going to look like? And so I kind of have this idea of how I want to approach things when I develop it. And it gives me a way to say, to kind of bring an overall theme to various regions, so that when you look at it, you say, oh yeah, that's from Kiel land, right? It's not going to be super obvious, but you'll start to see patterns.
There's a science to it that I would never know. And that's why, one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on was that it is not just putting pictures on a shield, And that's what's so cool about what you're doing, Bryan. You've really dug deep into, the Ridian, Sul, and Flan culture, and you've stuck to it as much as you could to really create, right, something that's rich.
And we know so little about because of the way the books were written and the time they were written. We don't really know much. They never really talk about culture. They talked about races, they talked about dress and what people look like, and they maybe talked a little about emotions, like the Sul are known for being angry, quick tempered, right? But what? And then they talk. One of the confusing things they talk about, generally everyone's a mutt in the world, in the Flaneus, with a couple exceptions. Like there's certain areas that are purer than others, but they don't really talk about culturally what that means. And so, and that's probably on purpose. I'm it's so that people can make their own decisions about what that is. But like trying to figure out what the cultural difference between Nyrond and Therionde are, I don't know. They're medieval. What are they? And unless you're like a history major or an anthropology person that knows, what the difference between the French and the, German and the English courts were, and what the peasantry was like, you're just going to make some decisions, and I'm probably overthinking it, but but that's the kind of stuff I think about when I'm trying to figure out the herald.
That's okay.
Purely
okay.
Yeah, and so I that's the kinds of things I think about for my own campaign, and so that kind of comes out in my heraldry. So all right, so
can you discuss these two I have up, please? I want to hear the story behind these two.
Okay. All right, so I got to remember this. Remember, this is like over 10 years ago.
First, where is this? What location?
Okay, so this is actually, I believe, I want to say this is from the Living Greyhawk, one of the Living Greyhawk shields. Okay. Here, let me pull up my site, because I probably do have, that'll trigger my memory. Give me one moment. But so obviously the green dog is an elven Kushi.
Oh, cool. Sorry to stop you.
No. It's just like
it's beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So if the shield itself was given to us, that's not one I created myself.
Okay.
That. Just a moment here. Back to Greyhawk Online. I really should have had that page up. Go to Greyhawk Heraldry. Enter the page, and then let's going to be Lands of the Finesse. Prelacy. No, that's not the Prelacy. What is that? I think that's Kingdom of Sundi, isn't it? No. Yeah, it is. So that is the Kingdom of Sundi.
Sunday.
And, yep.
Which would make sense why the Kushi is there.
Yeah.
A lot of elven realms.
Right. That's exactly what it is. I was trying to see. I haven't really looked at the Living Greyhawk shields. Like if you'd show me the shield with the the traditional shield from the original, I would have been able to track right into that. But essentially, what they did is
No problem.
Let me get back to the main screen so I can see what you have up there. So
That's where Britamar's from, I think, Jay. Original.
Britomar, Ambrel, and Carol, yeah,
Right.
from Sunday in our campaign. Yep.
right. So I have several different versions of the Cindy. I have the originals from Gygax's piece from when it was its own place, and then when it was part, it has the knot from being part of the Iron League. And then in Living Greyhawk, they changed the shield for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe that was a graphic design decision. Maybe I never been able to talk to anyone about why they did it that way. But that, so you saw those two there. So those three that go right in a row there that just went by, that's all an evolution of the same shield. And then because that's an elven kingdom, I decided to just put, what would be more elven than having that, wonderful Kushi. And I didn't have an actual Kushi. I used a hound, from normal human heraldry, and I just recolored it. I didn't really do a whole lot to it.
That's awesome. How about this one? How about the Selenian ones, man? I love Selene. You know how much I love Selene, Mark, right?
Oh, absolutely. We both do.
So Selene is interesting because you have a natural tree on a purple background. And generally that's not great heraldry because having color on color tends to wash out. The heraldry is really about contrasts, which is why everything is either gold or silver, white and yellow, with some color on it, or it's a color with either gold and silver on it, right? Because you want that high contrast between light and dark. But I kind of forgave that because it's an elvish kingdom. They don't care about human norms. They're not using it for the battlefield, for the most part. And so for me, the tree was kind of boring. It was not eradicated. The eradicated meaning having all those roots on it. And I felt that was just a better representation of the elvish society, where it's not something that's just kind of above the ground, it's something more. And I felt it was just a better image. And then I created, I wanted to have, you've seen the supporters on some of my other more human lands where it's like horses and anchors and all this. And I wanted something very natural. So I got that wreath that I found that was from something else within Armorial Gold, and I used that as the piece around it. And then I saw that starred crown, and I said, "That's
Thanks,
perfect."
Gaggins.
Oh, so that's the Ulick one with the unicorn. If you can find me the full picture of the.
Oh, that's the duchy of Ulick.
That is.
But by the way, Mark, we pronounce everything wrong. Everything. Do you know that Rennie is Renee? I never knew that. It's Renee.
I mean, is it Renee? Is that what Icarus is saying? Because he's kind of the expert.
Yeah, and we've called it Rennie all along. We're really bad on pronunciation.
Well, everyone is, because you would, unless you were able to talk to someone that, okay, so you see this here. So you have this little cherub fairy up top. I put that starred crown up there, and which for like Court of Stars, and then this beautiful wreath around it. I felt like that really kind of screamed Elven Kingdom, right? They're not really about military, in terms of their art, and and it's more about natural things. If elves are going to kill you, they're just going to kill you. They don't need a special. They don't need to tell you how badass they are. They're old enough and been around long enough. The only problem is they don't have the numbers. and thus they're in a more of a defensive crouch than you.
Especially in our world.
Yeah. And so, that was kind of my interpretation of that. And I really love that coat of arms. It's one of my favorites. It was like one of those ones where when I was done with it, I was like, wow, that looks great.
But wait till they see our shield for Celine.
Yeah, I will say I did echo the shield in the order for the Knight's Order from Celine. So it'll be interesting. But this is all like, there wasn't a whole lot of research here. I knew because it's a Fey realm, I wanted to have some type of fairy represented on top of the crown. And the starred crown kind of, when I was doing this, they were starting to do articles about the Seelie and Unseelie courts in basically what later became the Feywild in 4th edition and 5th edition, but was still the lands of fairy in 3rd edition and earlier. And so that, the crown just happened to have that many points on it. Does that have any actual significance? Well, I don't know, but what do you think? Make it up. That's the great thing is I don't try to explain everything, and sometimes it's happenstance. But if you find some meaning in it, that's great. Then that shield that's yours.
I want to ask you a game question, and I know Mark's kind of quiet, and we'll just say, Mark, you chime in, if you got anything. I know he's absorbing it all. It's a lot. I got to ask you this, because I asked this to Anna. What do you think about all of a sudden in 2nd edition, elves go away somewhere, kind of like in Lord of the Rings, when that didn't happen earlier on? Like, it drove me insane. It just did. I hated it, and the moon bow and all that crap, and just we never used that in our campaign. I was just curious, is your opinion?
Truth, 2nd edition was not my. I played pretty much every edition of D&D, and 2nd edition was not my go-to. There was just too much produced. There was too many people, too many hands in the pie. They didn't really have a vision or a voice to kind of talk about that kind of fluff. And the great thing about that kind of fluff, because mechanically it means nothing, you can ignore it. You can have your own stuff, right? And I'm not really, I was never a fan of that. I ignored that. It didn't really have any impact on my games because I wasn't really using that source material. And, Gygax really didn't talk about that kind of stuff. If you want to incorporate that in
exactly,
Greyhawk, by all means, go ahead. You can do it. There's room for it. If you don't want it, doesn't need to be there. If you have a better, cooler idea, I mean, 5th edition, they just, with the is it Mordekainen's? Yeah, I think it was Mordekainen's, where they kind of talk about these kind of plannier pieces. They did a whole kind of thing about what the elves are and how they came to be, and there's more fluff. And I like a lot of the ideas in it. I don't think I'd use 100% of it, but there's a lot of cool ideas to steal from it. And the great thing is the fluff is not mechanical. You could use that in any edition you want to. Mm-hmm. So I guess my main thing is that 2nd edition stuff really wasn't my cup of tea, but if it's yours, that's awesome. And you don't have to use it. You're never bound by what Wizards of the Coast or TSR has ever published. If that doesn't float you or your group's boat, make it up. Do something different. It's the fact of the matter is that we are so far beyond Tolkien now, and Fritz Lieber, and H.P. Lovecraft, and all all these people that Gygax and Arneson were reading back in the day. There's so many different sources we can pull from now. You don't have to be that if you don't want to be. And Greyhawk doesn't have to be that. Greyhawk has some definite things that make it Greyhawk, but you can play. Your Greyhawk can be very different from mine. And I'm perfectly good with that.
And that was the intent of the entire game anyway. Was
Originally, yes, yeah.
use whatever it is that you wanted to use. It's if you think of it this way, you consider it a framework more than anything else.
Suggestions.
All of us at one point or another, you have what everybody always refers to as house rules. I mean, even as something like you were mentioning before about how much of a board game enthusiast you were growing up. Who does not have house rules for Monopoly or house rules for Parcheesi or or other types of board games? And Greyhawk and D&D were never intended to be just because it's in the book, that's the rule. Now, granted, you can't allow people like Jay to go and abuse it, of course, for his own purposes. But I mean, aside from that, I mean, we don't use everything out of second edition. There's a lot of stuff out of first edition. I mean, you and I were even having this discussion beforehand about using like weapon speeds and so forth.
The nightmare that was weapon speeds. Yeah. And I'm sure I'm pissing some guy off right now. Weapon speeds are the shit. And for you, they probably are. But for us mere mortals that don't do math and want to get through a combat session in less than 2 days, they suck. It just but for some people that's the juice, and that's okay. That's why we I mean, originally you're absolutely correct. I mean, Arneson's game, everything I've read about him, his stuff was his players didn't know all the rules. They were all up in Arneson's head, and they would say, can I do this? And he would adjudicate it. And he didn't have a book to refer to. They started to infer the rules based on how Arneson ruled at the table, and they started to kind of gather that that group knowledge together about how the game functioned. But no one could go look up in the player's handbook in Arneson's game and say, well, my spell does this, or if I want to climb a wall, I have to do that. Arneson was the one that made that decision about how that would happen, right? And whether that was actually written down, in his head, or he made it up on the spot, you had no idea. And
we could never play that way because there would be way too much abuse going on with.
Right, and so and there's no way to sell that, right? I mean, you can't go into everyone's house and teach everyone to be Dave Arneson. That's just not humanely possible because not everybody's wired the way his brain was. And some people, it's just not an efficient way to transmit information. Now, the genius of Gygax was he saw what Arneson was doing, and he helped him codify things. And then he said, well, if we want to really sell this thing, there needs to be a common set of rules. And then it got further into this piece where they wanted to have competition modules at conventions, and then you really, because original Dungeons and Dragons was very fast and loose. That people would ask them questions and say, well, what do you think? Instead of giving them the answer. And first edition was much more about codifying things and saying this is the right way to play. There was still a bit of house ruley play stuff that you saw in Dragon and whatnot, but things were starting to get a little more solidified because you need to have a common play experience if you're doing organized play at a convention. And also it was, you could sell more things because now you had the official way to do it, and you could kind of push out people that were doing third-party projects. And that's when you monetized it, and that kind of changed kind of how D&D was played. And I'm not going to say whether it was for good or ill. That's just how it came to be. And you've seen, I think the ultimate expression of that codification was 3rd and 4th editions, and WotC has kind of moved away from that and loosened things up in 5th. It feels much more loose and more like 1E did. And some of 2E with just modern conveniences. I know people object to that characterization, but I think that we're kind of coming in this kind of full circle where now things are a little looser. It's more up to the DM to decide how that happens, right? They're less inclined to make a subsystem or a rule to cover every corner case that you can possibly come up with. It's just not tenable.
Sure.
And so. Yeah, I mean, and this kind of comes back to this whole lore thing about Greyhawk is, I'll just say flat out, even though I run the Cannon Fire Facebook page, and canon is in the name.
And the Discord server too. Just
Well, the Discord server is for Greyhawk Online, which is the website that I help with, but I'm not. That's Icarus, and he's the one running that, but I help out. And but that Discord server is there, kind of serving the Greyhawk community. The main thing I have there is I see it not so much that there's canon, because that feels to me like there's a binary choice at that point. Either it is or it isn't canon, and then you can have fights about that. I see it more as there are published sources of varying levels of utility for everyone to use, and you need to make your decisions about what works for your campaign. It's not every campaign is going to be like yours, and I hope to God yours are not like mine. Everything should be personalized to the group that's playing it, and I think that's the strength of D&D. I could never afford to play D&D like you guys, because I just can't buy all that material that you put down on the table.
we're a bit crazy.
Yeah. I have a friend that's just as crazy as you guys, and I don't think he quite goes as far as you. But, that is amazing to me, and I love seeing it. I just don't think that's something I would ever do as a DM, and that's fine. That's your guys' game, and it's beautiful in its own way. And I think there's a place at the table for all of us there. I think Greyhawk is strong enough to support all kinds of Greyhawks. And I hope that, and so like one of the things I try to do with my heraldry is I try to make it so that people can use it, and that it's useful to a lot of different people. And some of the choices I make may not be your choice. Okay, go make something then. Make an alternative to mine. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
So Brian, two things. Number one, you said we're past the time, right? But are we? I have to do this. I do it every
Past
show.
the time?
Yeah, past Gygax and all. I have to do this. I do it every show. But are we past Leonard Lakofka's time yet? Okay, so I have to say it every show. So number one, we had a meeting last night. Bryan and I did with the Future of Greyhawk, and Leonard actually sent me an email back and is allowing us to place his Archer article rewritten on Greyhawk Online. He actually gave us permission to do it, which was cool. I mean, Leonard's very curmudgeonly but he did. So now we got that. Now number two, I gotta tell a story real quick. He sent me a module he just wrote to playtest our group. All right, for a convention. Yes, it's called The Ravages of the Mind. Now here's the thing. I want to do this. It's for levels 3 through 5. This is perfect for our new first level group. So I sent him an email. I said, Leonard, thanks a lot. This is great. It's going to fit right into our campaign. We're going to broadcast it. We're going to do all this. But I got to use my characters because this is my campaign. He goes, no, you can't. You got to use the characters in here.
To answer your question about Leonard and all the people that help build and make Greyhawk what it is, no, it's not past their time. If they're still alive, they have something to say and something to do. I think though that if you're waiting for someone in authority to make a definitive Greyhawk, you're gonna turn blue, holding your breath for that. I think right now it's us that are creating content for Greyhawk, right? And we're taking what they did and we're building upon it and we're making it our own, as you should. You have the history you have for your campaign is amazing, but it's yours.
Thank
right?
you.
And I completely respect that. And whatever I make for mine is going to be mine. And whatever Anna does in her campaigns, all her amazing stuff, that will be hers. And and like some people will turn the Barrier Peak spaceship into a radioactive crater because they don't like that type of Greyhawk, and other people will, do whiz bang kind of planetary fantasy with Greyhawk, and they love that stuff. And so, Greyhawk, go ahead. You had a question? Turn your mic on.
Yep, your mic's off, Jack.
Here's what I was going to elaborate on. You and Anna have gone it one step further with us, and you have enhanced our campaign, right? And that's what is beyond. We're all doing our unique things, but I mean, I know myself and all the guys, Tom and Tim and Bill and Mark, who are all on now watching, are honored that you would and Anna would do that for us. And I felt so welcome since we have come into, and since I've been contributing since, I guess, I don't know, we came online June, really got back in, and we were hidden. We were in a little cubbyhole for 40 years, and I really am a little bit sad that we did that, but that's just that's the way life went for us. But now you guys have enhanced our experience. So I just wanted to say that,
I'll just throw this back at you guys, is you guys coming down to the scene and showing the world the way you play Greyhawk and the way you play D&D is contributing to this renaissance we're starting to experience with Greyhawk. And, while it may not be the version of Greyhawk I would necessarily play in, I totally respect what you guys are doing. And, if I can do a little bit to enhance what you're doing and to make it that much more fun and beautiful, that's great. I want to encourage people to get out there and create and do things and participate. If all we're doing is talking about what's been written over and over again, I mean, how many times can you talk about, Duke Carl as, in terms of how he's been portrayed in various versions of Greyhawk? I mean, that, if you're debating the lore, that's a static thing. That's talking about history. If you're telling a story, that's dynamic, that has energy to it. There is something that is being built upon by a group of people. Whether that is you and your players, or whether that's me and Anna coming in and adding something to it, that all builds into this crescendo of something that is more than what it started with. And I think that's just as important as what Gygax wrote, or Arneson wrote, or what Len Lakofka writes, or the people at Dragon's Foot, or anybody else that takes on a mantle of authority. Now, I have a particular point of view about Greyhawk, but I don't think that is all of Greyhawk. It's just my piece of it. And I'm open, and I think there's enough room for other people. And thus, I'm willing to support those people. If you're out, and you're out there supporting people, so to me, it's what I should be doing. And I'm happy to do that with you guys.
Oh, we're happy and ecstatic that you are. So let's talk about what I have up on the screen now, because Mark is a big Shieldlander, and is that Morning Canaan? That's the way we pronounce it.
Morning Kynan.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, I'm dyslexic and I have an audio component to that, so asking me to sound out something is.
Everyone pronounces Morning Kynan but us. Everyone that I've seen or talked to points to Kynan. Everyone. We're the only ones who do Kynan.
It's Morning Kynan according to the people that heard how it was pronounced. So, but hey, you guys were in your own little world for 30 some odd years. You're gonna have your little quirks, right?
It's no different. It's no different than how we, from the East Coast, use different types of language. Like, Jay, what you're drinking, for instance, we say water. That's what it is. WOODER. Whereas others say waiter, some say water. It doesn't make a difference.
I mean, how do you say ius? Use.
Is. We say is.
Is. Yeah. There's all these different pronunciations I've heard. Merle's has his pronunciation. I guess that would be quote unquote the official one. It's to me, I used to say hors d'oeuvres was hors d'oeuvres because I'd never heard it pronounced. I just read it, and so don't come to me as an authority on how something's pronounced. I'm not going to be able to help you there. Unless I've seen someone pronounce it that knows what they're talking about. I think there was a Frank Metzner article in Dragon Magazine which had a phonetic pronunciation for a lot of the names in Greyhawk, in one of the Dragon magazines, and it was replicated, I think, in some of the second edition era Greyhawk supplements, but I I'm doing that off the top of my head, so please don't quote me on that. Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot going on there. Yeah, pronunciation's hard for me, man.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. So what else do we want to talk about here? I mean, I've been kind of babbling.
This Shieldland feels like a 3D keep on there. I mean, it's cool. Is that original art you took on this one?
No, that's actually straight up from Armorial Gold. All I did was change the mortar from black to gray and then made the thing black, so it had some texture to it. I mean, I could have very well just made it a solid black piece like the original. It just seemed like the thing to do at the time, And here's the thing: is heraldry, a black tower is a black tower, right? And it can be that solid black tower like that's on the Gygax folio and in the box set, or it could be this, because whoever is actually taking the words of how they, let me just step back. Okay, so in heraldry, there's a thing called the blazon, which is literally the text explaining what the thing looks like, right? And that's where you get all the French words describing various things. So, this would be you would say red with a border white, red with a tower black, border white, right? And so when the artist would go and then take those words and turn that into something drawn, they would draw that tower however they were going to draw it, because there isn't a whole, there would be certain accepted things about how a tower be drawn, but the motifs that they would do in it might be different from one artist to the other. So I don't think there really is anything significant about the fact that you can see the masonry on it versus what was originally done. You can just chalk that up to artistic interpretation.
It looks great. It looks great.
I love it.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the supporters on it, that's purely my invention. I figure, the Shieldlanders are kind of the stick in the mud, lawful good. We're all about right and, justice and all that. And so an angel made a whole lot, warrior angel made a whole lot of sense to me. And then there are a bunch of knights, and so a horse would be very important to them. And then just because they're that kind of egoist, I put another black tower on top of the helm, because why would we have an animal there? And that to me just screams Shieldlands. It's very traditional and very masculine and warrior like.
Yep. Very stoic. Very what's the word I'm looking for?
Stick up their butts.
Well, kind of, sort of, but it reminds me of when people talk about black and white thinking. Shieldlanders are very much.
They're binary thinkers.
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
And our campaign is that way to a T, because the Order of Ulick is Mark's character. David Gradovich is one of the 3 oligarchs that currently runs the Shieldlands, and he's a native Ulick. And there's the lawful neutral aspect of the Shieldlanders that we have that hate him. And we play that up in our game a lot, and that adds attention. And I guarantee you the Shield soon will add the tension in even more, so that we're going to show shortly. But it's just, this will add even more fun to it. I mean, this is just, we're going to be using this now, now that we have access to it, all the heraldry. We're gonna try and I'm gonna ask Anna to do a couple things maybe with her map, with ours, and some other things too. So,
well, and here's the thing: is so again, this kind of comes back to is like you can do all the research you want, but you kind of have to feel your way to what you think is the personality of that kingdom and why you would put those elements in a picture of it. And for me, as a historian, I actually took a whole seminar course on crusades and pilgrimage, and the Shieldlanders always kind of struck me as kind of like the Holy Land kingdoms that sprung up after the First Crusade, right? They're under threat constantly. They're holding their own. and they're out begging for money to keep the good fight going on, but they're pretty self-righteous holes, you know, and and they think they're better than everyone else, and they and if you were to talk to them, they would say they are the second coming of the Knight Protectors of the Great Kingdom, the King Arthur legend of Greyhawk, essentially. And they'd say, there's no other order of knights that is truer to that standard, if not even more so, right? We're even more true to the standards of the Knight Protectors than the Knight Protectors themselves, because that's the kind of thinking that goes on in the Shield Lands, in my mind. Now
that's a lot of Fultus in there.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, and so they have a particular point of view about their stuff, and so I try to reflect that in the Shield. Now, if someone else has a different point of view about the Shield Lands in their campaign, maybe that Shield doesn't hit all the points for them. Maybe you need to alter it a little bit and make it a little bit different, and so but for you it's like dead on.
And here's another one dead on. Let's talk about the Principality of Ulick and what you've done with these.
Okay, so the shield that you're seeing there, so we'll look at the bottom one there, the red double-bladed battle axe. This is directly pulled from Living Greyhawk. They changed the shield. This is not the traditional one that shows up on the folio in the box set. And that's actually a quartered shield. There's like purple and gold in it. There's like a gem, and I believe a purple mountain with a gold. It's either a gold mountain and a purple sky, or a purple mountain with a gold sky on one, and then this white with red axe on two other parts. And that's the traditional shield. I did not do that because I felt this one was just kind of a stronger, starker piece. And if you're talking about the Principality in the Living Greyhawk era, post-wars, it's all going to be about the axe, because they're fighting a war for their lives in that timeline. It's very different from yours, which you guys held the line against the Pomage. But now, in terms of how I did the supporters, now you could put any shield between this for whatever Ulick, not Ulick, but the Principality of Ulick shield, whichever one you were going to use, you could sub out mine and put the traditional one in there as well. Now, the supporters, I went with these kind of celestial badgers because I thought that, that would be something like Favor of Moradin type of thing. Even though they're warlike, they still have to show some of their mining, roots. And then, fire would be kind of a symbol of forging. Now, the blue salamander I just thought it kind of looked cool. And, the salamander symbology, I didn't give a whole lot of thought to. Why it's blue, that's a mystery. I intentionally left it that way. If you come up with an in-game reason for that salamander to be blue, awesome. You've done a whole bunch of work and you've made that shield your own. Great. But I feel actually not compelled at all to explain what that is, because I don't really know. Until I put that in front of a set of players, I'm not going to make a decision about that. It might have some meaning.
Not everything needs to have significance right off the bat, too, and that's a good thing.
Right, and frankly, if one of my players comes up with a cooler idea than I ever could, I'll take credit for that, no problem.
I'll tell you, though, the thing that I love the most about that is the brick crown.
The masonry crown, yeah.
Really, really well done.
Yeah, and that's tradition. And in English heraldry, that's traditionally would be seen on a coat of arms for a city, right? And just like you saw the ones with the sails I had for the one for Hardby, that's traditionally a naval crown for like a port. Actually, for basically the English Navy on their arms. And so I took those and I said, well, I'm just going to use that differently. I'm not going to use it in the traditional sense of actual real world heraldry, because I felt like, why would the dwarves are all about stone, right? And metallurgy, but the Principality is all about defense. So it made more sense to me the crown would actually be made of that masonry, and that's why I chose that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, in real world heraldry, it has a very specific meaning, and I totally just said, nope, that's not what I'm going to do here. You know, this is fantasy heraldry. It has a different meaning to me. Yeah.
Radagast City.
Yep. I was just playing around with it because I really liked the shield. Now, this again, like I could have done gray so you could see all the masonry in that, but instead I went solid black like the actual shield. And this is one where I wanted to play with the elements of it because I felt like, you know, the shield itself is pretty boring, right? But when you put all these elements together with the mantling and the helm and the swan crown and, you know, the pelican and the anchor, that shield kind of comes alive, right? And that to me just was beautiful. And it was just more of just me being artistic and not so much doing research, other than the fact that it was a port, right? And I figured pelicans would be around, and you know, why not? You know, and pelicans do have certain some symbolic meaning, but again, this is like one of the things where I'm not trying to do everything real world. I want to have in-game significance to these things that don't necessarily correlate one-to-one to the real world.
And it doesn't have to have, you know, it can be interpreted differently by whoever's using it too, and that's the cool thing about it. And,
right.
and that's
again why I don't explain it. You know, what it means to me is it's more important. What does it mean to you? You know, and that's one of the things that's the artist conundrum is you can create something and it has a particular meaning to you, but as soon as someone sees it, they see it with a different set of eyes. They're always going to layer some other interpretation on top of it. So why force them to your point of view? Let them see it and make their own choice.
Sure.
You know, and this kind of comes back to this kind of thing that Gygax did. The genius of Gygax's original box set and the folio is he gave us just enough to tease it out to say, this is what's going on. And then everything else, we had to kind of make it up. You know, it wasn't until the Sargent era where they started filling in all the blanks that, you know, and I felt sometimes that was a disservice because now, you know, things that you were doing in your own campaign maybe got overwritten by the official stuff.
I'll say this. When I was a kid and I got that folio, I was like, oh my God, these are all great. These shields are cool. I mean, the folio was awesome, right? It just was cool looking. And then nothing happened with it. You know, they never really explained it, and they maybe elaborated a little bit. Nothing happened all those years. It just was there, and that was it. By the way, we have a question from the audience. Greyhawk Mike wants to know, what's your favorite adult beverage? That's what he asked.
Are you saying alcohol?
Yeah,
I have been really. I'm gonna sound really hipstery with this, but I love Aviator Gin because it's local. You know, I know Ryan Reynolds bought the company, you know, bought a stake in the company, is doing ads for it. There's some Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds ad that's out there that's hilarious, but it's damn good gin. And I also there's a local distillery that makes this Marionberry whiskey that's amazing, and I love that. I don't drink a lot of beer anymore, so. Oh, Jay, Mike, turn your mic on. What was that? Your mic was off.
Oh, Orcus Rex, who's a Norseman, immediately went cheers when you started talking about alcohol, so that was cool.
I don't drink a lot of alcohol of late, but when I do, I want there to be some flavor in it. Yeah. So
I didn't know Ryan Reynolds bought that company. That's cool. Did not know that.
Yeah,
So
I'm really hoping there isn't going to be like a land grab of. Yeah, what happened is we had all these microbrews, and then people started buying them up. You know, the big beer companies, and so they've kind of, you know, we're still the land of microbrews out here, but yeah, there just isn't. It goes in waves, but the untold secret in Portland right now is these kind of craft distilleries that we have, and there's some amazing stuff being made here locally. And my fear is now that Ryan Reynolds has bought Aviator, is someone else is going to start coming in and sniffing around our other stuff, and you know, who knows what that's going to do to our kind of local supply.
Well, it happens everywhere. I mean, we have so many microbrews in the Philly market. So I want to ask this. I mean, what was your inspiration? You did this from scratch. This is Free City of Hardby, right?
So when I did my Legends and Lore show on Anna and Mike's show, I did this whole, my piece was, I talked a little bit about heraldry, but my big piece was I did a bunch of research on the development of Hardby from the publication of the folio of it just being a brief throwaway statement about the Despostrix and the Garnachy in the Greyhawk entry and a city on a map, to what happened to it in the Sargent era, and then the attempts to fix what Sargent did. And it was just Hardby to me was this great missed opportunity to have a contrasting city for Greyhawk. They're rivals. They're not directly militarily at each other's throats, but they're definitely rivals to one another. And just the sheer size of Greyhawk means that they have the upper hand in power. But Hardby has this other culture, and they managed to hang on. And so that all kind of disappeared under Sargent, and then they tried to reclaim it, but it was kind of muddled, and they turned it into a town. And then I realized as I was doing my research, I was looking for a shield for them, and all they had was the Hardby Marines, which is that naval shield for that military unit, and really nothing else. And I said, well, that's not right. This is a town, and it's always kind of been the second banana. It's gotten the short shrift. And I said, well, I want to make something really cool for it. And so, but I wanted it to have kind of, like I said, I wanted it to feel like it came from Hardby. And so the conceit by using the lotus is, so my conception of heraldry, the influence of the Sulawese Empire on heraldry is that the houses had symbols for them, right? But they didn't really have a formal system of heraldry like we have now in the modern era of Greyhawk. And it wasn't until the Sul crashed into the Iridians during the migrations that their symbols and the Iridian need for military heraldry kind of mashed together. And so the conceit of the lotus is this is the house symbol of the original founder of Hardby that she carried with her from the Sul Empire. And then that's what became the symbol for Hardby. Now, here's the thing is that for me, that's the story that's being told by the Despostrix and her descendants, right? Are they really from that Sul house? Is that really their symbol? I don't know, but if that becomes an important thing for the players to figure out, we'll find out, and I don't have an answer for you on that. But I thought it was like very different from all the other shields around the area that would mark it, and it was very striking. It almost looks like fire, but it's also a flower. And you have two women warriors supporting the shield, and then the naval crown, because they're a deep water port. Now, here's the thing is they never really talked about Hardby having its own merchant fleet or its own navy. And because I'm going to keep it a city, because I'm going to go back to 576 CY and what was on the Gygax map and not what was published after. I'm going to actually have a small naval power to protect its own interests in Woolly Bay. And it's going to have merchants that go out and actually do trade. It's not a passive receptor on the behalf of Greyhawk of the trade from everywhere else. But that's my own personal campaign.
Well, we have 3 adventuring groups in Hardby. We have all this enmity with Alida Norbalos. She's awful. And we have groups with letters of marque from Hardby themselves to go out and actually pirate and raid, kind of like the privateers were during the Revolutionary War. So I love this, and we're immediately gonna incorporate this. And I know Anna's put this on her map as like canon for Anna, and that's a big.
She loved it. Yeah, she says as soon as when she realized that the symbol she had put down for Harvey was just the Harvey Marines, and not its own symbol. She says, well, if you're going to make something and it looks good, I'm going to put it on there. And so I had been thinking about this. And then she says, well, I got to get this map out to my Patreons by like a Monday. And I literally did this over the weekend and pumped it out to her and just said, here you go. And she loved it. It's like one of those things where the ideas for this has been banging around in my head for probably a year. And then I suddenly had a deadline and it just came right out on paper, and I did it very rapidly.
Just like you did our stuff, man. You were like boom, 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 boom on that, and that was cool.
You gave me ideas, and then and then I would throw something at you, and you said, well, that's kind of in line with what I'm doing, but if we tweak it a little bit, and then went back and I did it again, and it really was a combination of your vision and then some of my stuff, and I think it came out really powerful. I mean, it would never be something I would have done on my own. But, and that's the thing is I work really well when I have someone to bounce an idea off of. There, like some of the Greyhawk military shields that have been flashing by, I worked on that and then I abandoned that project because I just didn't like it. It just didn't, see, like that's the base shield. And so that's the archers. And then there's one with the spurs for the cavalry. And then there's another one with a sword for the infantry. And I was like, that's just too picture.
I like them, but that's okay.
I think they would make great badges for the units, right?
Yeah.
But I think what the heraldry for the military of Greyhawk is should be different, right? The overall image that the military has versus what someone would have on their tabard or on something is different. And so yeah, I just was never happy with it. I'm glad you like it. It was just something that, okay, so this is, I believe, the River Patrol.
The River Rats, right?
Right. Well, their nickname is the River Rats, so I made a shield that kind of makes fun of them with the rat on it. Yeah. That was.
I don't think I have that one for some reason, but yeah,
okay,
that's.
Yeah. So I had one with the rat that takes the hawk's head off of there and puts instead of the sea hawk, it's a sea rat with wings, and or no, it's just a sea rat instead of a sea hawk, and and that was meant as that'd be like someone protesting against them because they're kind of dicks, they're customs patrol.
Oh, we love those types in Greyhawk.
And so, I read somewhere their nicknames were the water rats, and so that's why I created that shield as someone was to joke about them. They would probably kill whoever put that up on a wall somewhere. But,
Is this shield the symbol for Mording Canaan?
No. That actually is for Valley of the Mage from the portfolio.
Yep.
And so they changed it. So if you flick further one, there's another one. That one. So this is Valley of the Mage in Living Greyhawk. They changed it for some reason. All right. And I don't know why, but I did both. And frankly, I don't know why the Valley of the Mage would even have a shield. At least my
makes sense.
The way I understood it is that Gygax's conception of the Valley of the Mage was he was a retired demiurge, which means he has the power of a god to create things, but he's not creative. He's really the artisanal tool of the divine to create things. So think of in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the guy that creates the fjords, and builds the world.
Yeah, he put all the fjords wherever he was creating.
He's not a god; he's a demiurge. He has the ability, but he doesn't have the creative spark. He does what he's told, right? And so for me, and again, this is purely speculation because he never wrote this in official stuff. He talked about it afterwards, especially after he left the company, and it shows up in his novels. Is that this guy's a demiurge, and so for me, the Valley Elves, he may have had a hand in something with the elves, and maybe he did a job for the elvish gods and did something for them in the divine order, and then when he decided to retire the valley, he made his own version of the elves, and they're not elves, which is why all the other elves hate them. And so that, again, that's a personal interpretation of what that is. For other people, that guy's just a straight up mage, and that's how they played it in Living Greyhawk. A very powerful mage at that, and they tied him into the Great Kingdom for some reason, which I didn't agree with. But that's the story that's officially published. And like I said, everyone's Greyhawk is different. But yeah.
So,
yeah.
We ready?
Yeah, sure.
We ready? Everyone ready? Okay, here we go. I'm gonna give me 1 sec here. Let's crank out the new stuff. Here we go.
So everyone's seen the main shield I created for the Knights of Uluk, which is this one right here that he's displaying in front.
Yes.
Okay. So that's based off of the drawing you guys did, and then the colors that I was told was involved with that. And so I kind of whipped this out, a couple hours? It's a pretty simple design once I figured out what it was. And I tinkered with it, like where they were crossing, and I did a couple alternate designs in terms of how I did the coloring and the background of the shield, but this one was the strongest, I think. And and Jay seemed to really love it. So
we have already taken, this is our symbol on Twitch. This is our symbol for our campaign now. This is our symbol that I did my first writing in years for Gary Con and Greyhawk Online, right? Mm-hmm. So it's being utilized as we speak. So and always will be, and it's just, I love it. And it's just, we never had it. We never had it in 40 years, and it's it's enriching.
Had some base representations, nothing really set in stone, a couple variations here and there, but none of us really had that much artistic ability to put something like this together.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the beauty is that there's people with talent out there that you can share.
Yeah.
And I was more than happy to do this. It was actually, because this is all elements I had access to, it was like literally me just layering the things together and then playing around with them until it came out the way that it looks. But then he started talking about the different branches of the order that are in Selene, Greyhawk, Shieldlands,
and the Vespi.
In the Vespi, High Folk, essentially. And I said, well, we can do something with that. And we kind of started batting some ideas around. And I threw up some examples. And then you want to throw up the first one?
Here we go. I think the first one will be Selene.
Sure. There you go. So basically what we did is we did an embattled border, meaning that's where you have that kind of crenellation around it. So if you're looking at it, it looks like little castle crenellations to kind of, because you guys do a lot of defense stuff. And then I wanted it to echo the arms of Selene. So we got the 2 trees and then the stars. And that ties into the shield that I did for Selene. And so that's going to be the suborder will be using that shield.
That is Temporal's new shield, right? Yeah. You like that, Mark?
Yeah, I love it.
All right, I thought you would. So the Pomarge area will be that Garth has will be the main shield because it's right where the headquarters is, and that's where the main strife is. So we don't consider that an area of influence. That's our main Order of Uluk symbol, which it should be because we're defending that Jewel River border. So Garth and then Marion Winchester, his XO, they will use the main shield. So Temporal and Jasiah, your XO, this is going to be the Selenian Quarter of East Vesper's shield. So that's the first one. Yes, it's beautiful. So let's show the next one here. Here we go. Next one I think is going to be Greyhawk.
Okay.
Yep.
So this one was really easy. And it's really striking. I really like how this one came out. oh, this is the one that has the chains in the wrong direction.
But it's okay. I like them that way too.
You like them with the broken chains pointing down? I think I reversed them back pointing up. But either way, it's a great piece, and it now there's going to be this kind of theme between your shields. So, and then so now, whenever you have an order, that it'll tie it to the land the order is in, if they have some sort of tie to that land.
So, for example, the Mega Stream March 23rd is going to be based out of Greyhawk City for our finale part. So there's going to be members of the Iron Brigade, and a lot of them are Knights of Ulick, and there's going to be some outside people coming in, and this is going to be now, that'll be the shield, and they'll have that crest on. That'll be what they're all utilizing, and I just think I love this. I mean, I love them all, but I just love the look on this with the coins and the chain, and it just. I mean, I'm sorry. It's called a battle. The battlement, is that what you're calling the style?
Embattled.
Embattled.
Yeah. So the line is embattled around it. So instead of it just being a border, it's a border embattled, is what it's called. And
the Order of Ulick's always, I figured, more combative, and that's why I liked that idea. Because it's like sometimes, right, Mark? We don't talk first. We fight first and talk later.
Yep.
So
ready, shoot, aim. So
so is the next one gonna be the shield lance?
That's last for
okay,
Mark.
We'll do the best. Okay.
Yeah, the Vesby. Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So this one was a little harder because I wasn't really sure what the little pieces, like replacing the coins, were going to be, and I figured, again, because we're dealing with an elven realm, that there would be something more of nature involved in it. And so the flowers seemed like an appropriate choice, along with the antlers to kind of signify you're kind of working with knights of
the High Forest, the
Knights of the High Forest. And then you have, I can't remember, you were telling me that there was like the eagle was something that was a symbol that was important to this movie.
There's a keep called the Eagle's Nest that Bill, who's Sushar Scorn, his character Eleanor Moonchild, and I'm going to tell the story next week on our show, but they found it in the middle of this Vespi. It was abandoned, it was overgrown, and he went in and this is a funny story, he went in to take it, and there were lossels in there. A lossel threw a piece of dung at him, critically hit and killed him. So that was a good story for that. But he basically, his high level, I think he's Sylvan Elf, right, Bill? Sylvan Elf fighter. It's his keep. It's called the Eagle's Nest, and that's where they are stationed out of. So yeah.
Yeah. So I felt like, so you had this story, and I wanted to bring that eagle element into it, and that's where that eagle came from, instead of it just being all floral.
It's another striking one too, and they're so different, which makes you now every shield where the area of influence is, and that's what's so cool. And I don't think we're going to be expanding anytime soon because I'm too old. By the time we have enough going on, 19 adventuring groups is enough. You know what I mean? So I say that every year, and then every 2 years we start.
We say that all the time, and within like 3 months we end up with a brand new group, so it doesn't matter.
Yes, but this new group was special. This was Bill's idea, this new group. So, okay, and here's the last one, and then we got something we're now nowhere near done. But here's the shield lands. Mark's going to appreciate this.
Yep. Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, you got Blood of the Martyrs on there for you.
Yeah, love it. That is fantastic.
Randall White's going to hate this, and all the. And
I was going to ask you if you actually had him do any symbol for Randall White.
No, I stuck with us because the story's about us, right? Because we're very self-centered. Now the story's about the Order of Ulick, and so Knights of the Holy Shielding can use the Shieldlander symbols, and I think they have their own symbol too. But this is just
the Knights of the Holy Shielding is the Shieldland shield.
Yeah.
Yeah. The state and the order are the same.
Raining Blood, Bill. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Raining Blood. It's got great detail. It's got the keeps on it. It's at the towers. It's striking. And
Yep.
All of them are, Brian. I gotta say thank you so very much. I mean, that gives us 5 shields. It's just, like I said, I'm humbled that you would do that for us, and you and Anna together have really enriched our game. And it's just, I can't, I know my guys are just saying, wow, this is cool, because it changes our dynamic a bit. Now we have, Temple's coming in, and she's a Selenian, knight, and, there's not a rivalry thing, but it just gives you the flavor of changing it up. It's not just one big order. It's an order with, the spheres of influence are actually felt now because there's symbolry behind it. You know what I mean? It's cool. It's cool.
And I want to see one of these shields painted on someone's mini.
Well, I was going to say, so the other thing that also happened is that Bill is now going to have to really invest in some time and redoing some figures now.
But the great thing is that it's a simple thing for me to do, but this has like an amazing ability to kind of, the stories that you now attach to this image and the power of that image for you guys. That's going to be so much more than what I just did, because you'll have stories around this now. There are elements in these that I hope that are tied into your guys' background. I tried to get as much as I could from Jay, so that what I was doing wasn't just, oh, that would look cool, but this actually has some meaning for you guys, right? Because that's what you would try to do. And so there's this one thing about heraldry where usually you just assign something by the sovereign, but you guys have this different story where you just created yourselves out of whole cloth. It's a very Wild Coast, Greyhawk kind of thing, and you've kind of pissed off some people in power because of that.
Yes.
So you're not necessarily following all the quote unquote rules of heraldry with your heraldry. There's some things in here that I'm pretty sure wouldn't fly in real world heraldry, but who cares? You guys are all self-made. And so that's its own little piece.
And I tell that story in here about how the prince just didn't even respond. He didn't say yes, or he just said nothing. And that story goes back. And we will tell some of that next week's show. We're going to do storytelling time, and it's some good old-fashioned history. But you're absolutely correct. We were renegades when we did this back, and I was like 13 years old. You know what I mean? I didn't know what the hell we were doing back then, but it made sense. Oh, there's nothing on the map, and all the humanoids are here. There's a river. What's stopping them from crossing the river? It was simple common sense. So
there's an interesting thing that Matt Colville has said. Like, he's done this whole thing with strongholds and followers, which I really like for 5th edition, because it kind of brings it back to this 1E thing where you get to a certain level and you build a stronghold and you get followers and stuff like that. He's doing that for 5E. But one of the interesting things he said is that in order for you to gain the power and the prestige of your stronghold, you first have to defend it. It's not enough to build it, but you have to hold on to it before you really gain the full, stuff from it. And I thought that was an interesting concept. And that's like something you guys just did naturally, is you created towers and keeps and towns group around them, and you defended them. And by that piece, you are a power to be reckoned with. Now, the prince from the Duchy of Aluc may not agree with that, but he's going to have to deal with the fact that you guys held the land when he didn't. And that'll probably sticks in his craw.
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but this is the story you guys all tell, and I'm hoping that the heraldry will help tell that story and give you that visual symbol. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's a good story because there's always been enmity between the Prince of Ulic, and he had the rumor was he had an insanity and he was supposed to be cured, but he's still pissed off. Mark has a character, Arden the Vanquisher, who's actually a Prince acolyte who plays in our groups and comes in and says he came in into Winchester's Bulwark when we started up that campaign and said this will all be the Prince will take this all eventually, and that's it. So that we have all this, and we love the political enmity. We love that And we're not just about miniatures. And I know everyone's, yeah, and you said it perfectly. We're a tactical game and our thing, but there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes going on. And sometimes it's innuendo with us because we all know each other. We've been together 40 years, so we all know each other so well. So like, Garth Warmonger, everyone knows about Garth. Garth's been played last Thursday. Everyone knows Garth thinks he's a ladies' man, but he's ugly half-orc. And all that stuff's innuendo with us because we know it, and we're trying to get it out to everyone, more of our stories, and people are starting to loosen up a bit, and we're starting to tell more of them, and that's what I want. I want to get the flavor of the campaign out to everyone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Now we'll go back to this. We're going to go back to the collar chain real quick here.
Okay.
This is a work in progress up top. Okay. Explain the concept.
Okay, so knighthood is not only is it rights and responsibilities and being a warrior, but it's also very symbolic. And one of the things that one of the symbols of your ascension into knighthood would be this collar chain you would wear around your neck. And so around the Knight Protector shield, you see this chain that has this double size, these sides connected to each other, and the bushels of wheat chained together. And this would be this collar you'd be wearing around your neck. And then there's this little pendant on here with the rampant hound, which is basically showing loyalty. And so the story of that chain is they came from peasant stock, and they weren't noble. So if you see this picture of the noble on the screen that he just had up there, that's a knightly collar being worn after it's been awarded to someone. And you can see it's full of gems, and it's a lot of gold work, and it's very hoity-toity. It's a nobleman's piece. And so I talked to Jay about, well, do you have a collar chain for your knightly order? And he said, what's that? So I sent him the Wikipedia article, and I said, well, I created this for the Knights Protectors. You guys should have one of these because everyone who gets inducted into knighthood should have this knight's collar. But that knight's collar, the design of it really needs to have some sort of symbolic meaning to your group, right? It's something that it's the story your group tells about itself, and it's so when you do that investiture ceremony where they get this collar, there's probably gonna be all kinds of stories about what each symbol on the chain means, and there's all this stuff you can do with it because the knighthood is as much a story about why you're knights and what you're about, the vision of who you are and where you came from, as it is going out and doing deeds. And so this is kind of like I put that idea in Jay's ear, and so we started talking about it. And I said, go back to your group, talk about what are the things you want in it. He came back to me with some things. I said, okay, we can work with that. And then so here's some ideas that I've progressed along, and we'll see how you guys like it, and see if there's any more work to be done on it. Okay. So you want to pop that up, Jay? Boop, boop, boop. Oh, you're talking with no sound.
Yeah, I was talking to myself. I just like.
Oh, okay.
That's the first one that you were doing. I put it up just because I wanted to see how it was evolving. So.
Is there a way you could center that so that
It's
people?
I'd have to expand it out. It's very difficult.
No problem.
It's very difficult with the slideshow, and it was a little big. But I got the next one. The one you.
I'll briefly talk about this. So.
Yeah.
You have a bronze dragon in the mythology or the actual stories of your group. And so rather than just having a flat out dragon on there, I went with the dragon wings. And so I had, because they could be incorporated into the element of the chain. And then you guys do a lot of defensive work. So I figured there should be a tower involved in this. And then you wanted something that symbolized your work with the elves and the dwarves. And so I figured a crescent moon and the forge, which has some religious connotations for the dwarves and the elves, and
absolutely
right. And then, but this was just literally me roughing something out. I think I did this in like 30 minutes. Yeah, and I said, let's, and I threw a couple ideas up, and we went back and forth. I started with the anvil and the crescent, and then I built this all out. And then I said, I need to think about this, and then I guess we go to the next one. which you'll see the progression of it. So
Yes, it's progressing, and that's half of one, and it's of a side, and it's really cool.
because I didn't want to have to redo, as I was making these changes, I only want to do one side so I can just mirror it and put it over on the other side. So this is just half the chain on one side so that I could do the work, make changes as I go. And then when we finalized it, I would just literally take it, copy it, flip it, and move it into position on the other side. And so what I did is go ahead.
This is a work in progress. This is not complete. Just to let everyone know, Bryan is a work in progress.
So these are the main symbols that I wanted to have on the chain, if you guys approve. And then what I'll do is I'll start linking them with gold links, like you saw on the one for the Knights Protectors, so that it would actually look like a chain, collar chain that you would wear around your neck. And so, what I'm trying to do is just get the elements in place before I do that fine work of putting the links to it. And so I went with a bronze dragon head, and then the wings off, and then I made the towers gold. I made the crescent. I consulted with my wife, who's really good with color and knows jewelry, and she says with enamel work you wouldn't have that big thick crescent. You would have that thin crescent, and then there'd be something to hold there'd be this negative space, the black, enamel to hold the gold anvil in place. And that actually, I like the look of that a lot better when it was all said and done.
Yeah.
Now I have a little, so there's a little work to do around the pendant. I think I want to make the darker gold border of it a little thicker, so there's a place for the chain to hook into, because I don't want the chain to come into the victory wreath that's under there. But I figured this was a good start, and I wasn't, I wanted to show it to you guys to see what I've done with it, and if that's what your approval is, I can do some more work on it. If you don't like some of the elements, I need to know so I can make changes.
Explain one thing. Bill did a little markup, and tell him about the difference between sinister and how it was backwards. Explain.
So a lot of heraldry is in French. So the traditional direction of most beasts and items is always to the right, dexter. Sinister, left. There's a reason why we say someone's sinister now in this language. Lefties have always been seen as someone, left has always been seen as lesser than, evil, and whatnot. And so
as the wearer is, not as we see, as the wearer is wearing, correct?
So this pendant on your chest, the right would be, so here's my chest. Sorry. The right is over here, or excuse me, right's here, left here, and you always go from the point of view of the person looking off the chain, not looking at the chain. And so the head should always be to the right, unless you want some sort of sinister connotation to the symbol that you put on there.
And we don't want that.
Now, and so what I did is, because you guys are working with the duels and auras, I kind of echoed your coat of arms by putting the red hammer and sword on the anvil. And then I put red highlights into the tower, the golden tower, to kind of echo the colors of your order of gold and red. And then, of course, the bronze dragon wing, my wife helped me come out with a better color scheme that was a little more visible and more bronzy. And then I echoed it in the dragon's head. It came out pretty well.
I love it. I mean, it's gonna. We never did. We just, you're in the knighthood. We never did ceremonies, induction. We never did that stuff because it just I don't know. And I just think now, like for example, Bill's character Aylwin is 8th level, and in order to get your full knight status, you're an apprentice up to that. When you become like a lord status, you can get your knight status at 9th, and it's a big thing for Bill's character Aylwin, because he's going to take over these vagabonds over at Winchester's Bulwark, all these low levels, and try to make them into a force. So he wants to get his knight status, and now we'll have something. We'll have the actual chain, and we can actually, he's not going to like it.
Bill is going to have to redo every single knight figure with all the chains on them.
Sorry, Bill.
Yeah. So I have something I'm going to show of Bill's in a second too. But what he's doing, the crazy stuff. We have a special surprise, Brian and I too. So, but I never would even thought of this, and when Brian brought this up, I was like, man, this is cool. I mean, and it is. This is super cool. It's something that just we never would have ever considered in a million years if I had not talked to Brian about it. I mean, no, it's just.
And Brian, I would be under the assumption that the actual officers would probably have a different chain. Like these would be standardized across like the regular knights, and then your officers would have something different to show distinction.
Well, what I would do is if you have different ranks within the knighthood, so like say there's a knight commander or a knight sergeant or whatever the ranks are within your organization, so if you look at that, so you have the bronze dragon's head kind of centering that piece. You could drop something off the bottom of that, a symbol there, where you could affix a rank symbol on it. So, for example, and the color that you use. So, you could have a purple one for someone who's in the order from Celine, right? A pendant below that. I didn't really work on that because I couldn't think of a symbol that really reflected your organization, its history and goals. And I wanted to talk to you guys about that and maybe think about that a little bit. And I can show you some examples of what actual knight order. A lot of it has to do with crosses because of the church connection between knighthood in the real world. I don't necessarily say we need a cross for you guys, but we need to figure out some sort of symbol that means something to your order.
Yeah.
And
I'd probably say there's a lot of dominant deities in it, considering that the knighthood was based on Jay's original character, Jay the Great.
Now you gave it away.
Well,
we were all kids.
He was an Uko worshiper. So
Uko and Alana.
Sword or something like that.
12 years old. What do I know? We all had our first characters all named after ourselves. So I was going to anagram them, change it up. Yeah, and Alan and William the Conqueror and stuff. Oh my God!
You already know that. We've talked about that.
I know. It's just a little hokey.
But the reason why I'm even bringing this up is because Jay has an NPC specifically named Fonkenhottie Peak
from the G series.
A specific distinction to throw under people's nose that he is higher up than anybody else other than Lord Gazumba.
He's second in command.
So one thing you could do is depending on what we do with that. So if we don't do something that drops off the middle piece there, we could do, if I widen that a little bit, we could put something rank symbols there. Like to use an example, like for generals, you use stars to indicate the level of rank. So if we were to use stars, for example, right, the number of stars you have on that pendant would show your rank.
That's a cool idea.
Right? We don't have to use stars per se. There's other symbols we could come up with that might be have more symbolic meaning for your group, but it could be just gems on there. Like I said, this is a discussion that you all need to have amongst yourselves and then with me, and then we can kind of work something out that we can integrate. I didn't want to do too much with that because I don't have enough information about your order.
I think that'll come with time too, as you get to know us too. I think just like anything.
Yeah. And so, like I said, so it's a work in progress. I just wanted to give you kind of a rough idea of where I was going with it. And so what's going to happen is there'll be connecting links between the different elements, and then there'll be just a regular chain that goes off the end of that wing around the back of your neck. So literally there'll just be these, when you get the other side, there'll be 7 elements of the main chain that'll be in front, and then there'll just be a plain chain going around your back, connecting it all together, right? Because you guys are more about, you don't need a bunch of gems all the way around your bodies. You're not most of you aren't noble born folk.
Correct. Very few.
With big pretensions, you just wanted to have, this is the symbol of us. This has the meaning, and it's more important what's in front, and you don't have to show it off all the way around. I mean, that's the kind of thing I got from talking with Jay.
Yeah.
And, and this is I've seen other examples of this in real world knighthoods where they don't have something that goes all the way around, a repeating pattern. It's very distinct in the front and then very plain across the back. So,
I just think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant idea.
and just to say is like working with you guys has kind of re-inspired me. I did this for the Knights Protectors because I wanted to really have something different to put around a Knight Order shield. And I had planned to kind of do something for the other knighthoods that exist in the world of Greyhawk. I just never got around to it. I stopped doing my shields for a while. And I think what eventually I'll do is I'll figure out what the Knights chains look like for Knights of the Watch, the Knights of Dispatch, the Knights of the Heart, all these different orders of the Heart, all of them are going to have their own little chains, that they do. And
It's awesome.
eventually I'll get to that.
That's a lot of work, man. I mean, it's a lot.
It's going to take years for me to do a lot of the heraldry I want to do. It's going to be a long-term project.
So let's speak of new heraldry that we wanted to discuss tonight. That no one is. You and I are the only two that know about this. I haven't even told. See, I've been good. I didn't tell them anything. All right. Bryan said, "How can you have a city on Anna's map like Hardby or like Altamira and not have a heraldic shield on the map?" So we need to discuss a symbol for this free city of Altamira.
Oh, so it's very simple. Very simple. The very first thing has to be on is Hoop's fruit stand. Yeah.
Come on, seriously.
The very first settlement right there.
That's a joke.
We don't have to literally have a fruit stand on there. We could do fruit. That plant material is very heraldic.
It's a great
especially
idea,
for
Mark.
like civic
Actually,
heraldry. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So what kind of fruit?
It's got to be a kumquat.
A kumquat? I don't know if I have one of those, but it will.
yeah, better
We'll talk about that next week. That there's stories behind it. That's why I am, in all honesty, I'm meaning it as a joke, but
Yeah.
But
No, it's a great idea to do something like that because that town grew up in the shadow of the fortifications you guys built, right?
yeah.
And you're the ones that made it happen. And so, like your Knight's Order shield, the shield that gets the civic heraldry that gets built for that town probably isn't going to conform to something out of the principality, right?
it's in the county of Ulick actually too. So
right. So it's going to probably be much more agrarian, nature based, but you guys should think about the elements that you would potentially want in it. We can talk about the shape and the form, and I would even open it up to your audience and say, that know something about your campaign is, if you have an idea, toss it up here in the comments, because this thing's wide open. We haven't even roughed this out. I have no idea what this is going to look like. And definitely you guys amongst yourselves should talk about it, especially those that have PCs that are powers within that town, should be talking about this, because when it gets done, this is going on your map.
Characters live there. Yeah, it's going on, and so it's a huge. I know it's a big thing, and we need to discuss it a lot. The history is three cavaliers before we had knight classes or anything. Elijah Winchester, the third. Britomart, Aradhel, and Cerastus, Tim's character, all went there, and this is when we went on our trip to Fairfax, Virginia, to see Mark down there. We did that as our third adventure. We had done that whole weekend, and we were all exhausted. And Macross showed up, and Tim and I were talking about that today. Actually, we'll tell that story next week. But there's three keeps. There's a round cylindrical tower. There's a square tower, and there's a pyramid tower. So they all did different styles. So who knows? Maybe we'll incorporate different geometric shapes. Who knows? I mean, there's some options.
Right.
But I'm excited about it, and Brian's like, "Let's do this." I'm like, "Hey, this is great." So we're gonna brainstorm on Thursday night, and we're gonna brainstorm in the crowd. We'll take some people in the audience if they want to have some suggestions. I mean, I'm excited about it. It doesn't have to be night based either. It should be for Altamira. So
yeah, I mean, you could have it quartered, and there could be one panel of it that would have your coat of arms, since you ostensibly are protecting it.
That's a good idea.
That's a potential for it. But like I said, it's wide open. There's a lot of choices to be made here. You guys can kind of talk about the history of the town, and what would be on their seal. One thing I will caution is, don't try to throw everything in the kitchen sink into it. Really, list all the ideas, and then we got to distill it down into a really powerful image, because it can get too busy, and then it just looks muddy. It isn't going to pop off the map.
Simple may be the best way to go too.
And that's also a possibility. I mean, I wouldn't go as simple as like Safeton, which is like basically a background, other elements. But you can go pretty simple. I mean, the Alyssa shield above, and even the Ulik shield that just popped up now on screen with the unicorn. That's a very simple shield. But the town isn't necessarily going to be that simple. I mean, you can also think about, so the fruit stand has some meaning, even though you're kind of joking about that, has some meaning to the town in terms of its creation story.
It does. He was the only person there. He was the only thing there when they got there.
Right. And then you have, the town grew up around it. So what is the what is the major piece about the town? What is its major commerce? What's its major purpose?
Yeah.
And that could potentially be a symbolic. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the shield. That could be a supporter, right? On it.
It could be something as simple as this, like the mayor of the town. Her name is Charisse, and she's a grandmistress or masters of bounty hunters. And there's a bounty hunters guild, and not assassins. It's a bounty hunters guild out of Altamira. Maybe some kind of subliminal bounty hunter symbol on there. You never know, but something. Because there's a mercenary guild there as well. There's all sorts of. There's a theater district. It's everything. It's growing, and that's a project Anna and I are going to work on starting in April, building that city from scratch with all the buildings and all the locations on it too. So we got a lot going on for the city. So we got to discuss that. And I really thank you for offering that to us as as our 2019 major Manacles Rocks is funny project. I'm excited about it, and I know we're going to get input from all our players. A lot of them, everyone's saying fruit. Maybe some kind of cool fruit on there to start. I don't think a kumquat is going to be the way to go on that, Mark. But
just remember, you're the one that started it, not me.
I know, but I always had commentary on real life. And Hoops was a guy at RCA. He walked with a gimp, and I just thought that's the way he would say something, kumquat, and then he'd drop it, right? And that's the way it used to be. Back then. This is 87 we're going back to when the city was founded in our game. That's how far back we go in that, and that's like recent history compared to some of the other stuff. So but it's exciting. We got a lot going on. We have all this new stuff thrown in, map locations, heraldic symbols, and all, and it's like reinvigorated the entire campaign, and it's just everything we've been doing. And Bryan, I really thank you for that. I'd like to ask you this question. Where do you see yourself going with this? Do you want to get start doing a Patreon, start doing it for other players, other campaigns?
I think that's the direction I am heading in. I have some legal questions to answer about Armorial Gold's symbol sets I'm using that I need to resolve, because I want to, this will kind of go into the weeds a little bit. We're dealing with derived works from someone else's IP, i.e. Greyhawk. Now, if I'm creating a shield whole clock like the one I did for Harby, that's all me, and I can faithfully claim that's me, and I don't have to worry about Wizards of the Coast or anybody else, unless I was infringing on someone else's trade dress from something outside the gaming industry. But if I'm doing like a shield for Greyhawk or a shield for Ulik or something like that, I'm dealing with someone else's IP, and I have to be very careful about the copyright assignment. And I'm also dealing with the copyrights with Armorial Gold. Once I've resolved that, yeah, I think what I'm going to basically do is I'm going to do some type of Patreon to support me doing the work so that I don't have to do work for hire on the specific image unless someone's hiring me to do that work outside of Greyhawk. It's not using the Greyhawk symbols. And then that'll allow me to continue to do the work I'm doing, upgrade the software and hardware I'm using to make things easier to do over time. And then eventually, yeah, I'll have a website, and I'll start doing some custom stuff for people.
Well, you got a converts in us already, so we're there. Once that goes, we're there. There's only one person. I Patreon Anna. That's it, and then there'll be two once you're up. And that's I'm not.
I gotta. There's some things to figure out. Basically, when I get done with tax season, that's next on my goal list is to like really figure out how I can do this legally, so that I'm not infringing on someone else's IP, and that people can support me in good conscience. And I also want to make sure that I'm set up where I'm on a decent production schedule. I don't want to take this on and then not be able to deliver. That would be really upsetting to me. If I promise to do something, I really want to make sure it happens. And right now I don't feel like I'm ready yet to pull the trigger on that. I'm kind of doing some stuff for Anna ad hoc, and now you guys, and that's pushing me into that direction. And I feel like I'm getting more confident about being able to do that, and that there's a market for it. So yeah, I'm looking to do that. I think by the end of the year, I should be up and running.
Well, there's a market. I mean, I guarantee you, there's some of our players on here who have campaigns and all, and they're like, and it may not even be Greyhawk. It may be something outside. I mean, I'm telling you, there's a market for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, so. And I'd love to do something like that, because then that plays into the kinds of stuff I like to. The thing I hadn't really talked about, and I know we don't have much time, is I've spent a lot of time doing community and gaming organization since 2000 all the way to today, and it's been a big driving force. It's where I get a lot of the juice out of my gaming, is making sure that people have a place to play and people to play with. And that's kind of my mantra is more people to play with, more places to play. And I haven't been doing as much on this creative side, where I've been creating things just for the joy of creating them. And working with you and Anna and all these other great creatives has kind of inspired me again to kind of get back into that and kind of feed into that piece that kind of nurtures me a little bit. I really have been enjoying it.
It's been brilliant, man. It's absolutely been brilliant. I really thank you for tonight. We're going to do some quickie announcements if you don't mind, and then we'll say, okay. So, Bill, hopefully you're on. All right, so everyone knows about the 16-hour mega stream. Well, Bryan, Anna, and Greyhawk Mike, and a whole bunch of people are going to GaryCon. And why don't you go over what's going to happen there pretty quickly, and just tell us about it.
So this has been in the works. There's 6 of us: Carlos, Alan, Grodog. He's known online as Grodog. Mike Mike, who's done the Great World of Greyhawk comic, and he just got done doing Castle Greyhawk with Scott Casper, another web comic set in the world of Greyhawk. It's a wonderful thing. If you haven't seen it, go read it. Anna Myers, who does those beautiful Greyhawk maps, and she also does work for Midgard and has done several other projects. Christoph, aka Icarus, who's been reviving the Greyhawk Online website, and me, we're all going to be doing a seminar at GaryCon about the Greyhawk fan renaissance that's going on right now for streaming, blogs, websites, Facebook, Discord, you name it. We seem to be able to coming out of the woodwork right now, and there's a group of us that are starting to support each other and trying to give each other technical assistance, and we're cross-pollinating our skill sets. And we're going to talk about different aspects of Greyhawk fandom and how we're trying to work together, you know, in the face that we don't have any official Greyhawk stuff, and also looking to the future that if and when WotC pulls the trigger on DM's Guild for Greyhawk, then we're ready to support that. I mean, they can produce something that will be the base document, much like Eberron has. And if they do that for Greyhawk, we need to be ready to produce content. And we need people to be in that frame of mind and ready to work. And so we're hoping to encourage that and continue to strengthen the communities and the bonds between our communities. And that's really what it's going to be about. So we're going to be doing that on Friday. If you're at GaryCon, please come and see us if you have time. It'd be awesome. There's going to be a handout there that's going to have an adventure by Carlos for first edition. There'll be some My Heraldry, some Honest Mops, there'll be maps. And there's going to be artwork, NPCs. I'll do a little blurb on Heraldry. There'll be stuff from Jay about the Knights of Ulick. And it's going to be given out to everybody. We're thinking it's going to be about 20 pages worth of stuff. Plus, and we're going to send up links to all the different communities that are out there. So if you're just here and you want to see what else is going on, we're going to link you all up with all the other amazing stuff that's going on with the other streamers, with the other websites, with the Facebook groups, you name it. You know, there are a ton of things going on out there right now. You know, a lot of Greyhawk stuff. It's an amazing time. This is the most fertile I've seen it since the beginning of living Greyhawk in 2000. Oh, Jay, your mic's off.
It's so exciting. Yeah, I hit the wrong button. Yeah, keep on click. It's so exciting because I'm so excited that we're all part of it now. And you know, I just wanted to. I wish I could go to GaryCon. I can't go to both GaryCon and Gen Con. And so my contribution is trying to get this mega stream charity event. That's what I'm. I want it to be the biggest. Viewership, get some donations, and get out. There's Greyhawk streamers out there, and that's my whole goal on this. They're going to show that too. Anna's going to have it on her PC, and she's going to show that. Mark created that, so that's all Mark. He did the whole thing, and we appreciate.
We're happy to plug you guys doing that because we're not in competition with each other. We all should be supporting each other, and because it all builds together. The stuff I do for you is creating opportunities for me. And that's not why I did it, but that's what's happening. And the stuff I did with Anna is the same thing. And, her maps are amazing. And, the stuff she did with you are great. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's going to be a blast. You guys are going to have a great time. I wish I was there. Maybe I'll get out there to that next year, plan a little bit better. But it's just, it's a good step forward to get the word out. And I'm hoping you guys have that room filled. I imagine by that time you will. So,
right now we have 22 people signed up as of yesterday out of 50, which is amazing to me. I was going to be really happy with about 20. I'd be amazed if we get 25. If we go above that, I'll be ecstatic. So filling a seminar at ostensibly a gaming convention is a pretty amazing feat. And,
I think you're going to get there. I think I think it's going to be filled because people are going to be interested once they even walk-ins. I think it's going to be filled. I really do. So
I hope so.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So I want to show you something that for our mega stream event. Bill, I think, had the log, but I want to show you what he's building for us. All right, real quick. All right, wow. This is a work in progress. That's a huge red dragon. So this is going to be for our finale part of the stream. So he's working on this, a lot of painting and a lot of other. I mean, he's brilliant with this stuff, and hopefully he's not upset that I showed this to everyone. But I mean, it's a fantastic. This is you've seen our table. I mean, he does some unbelievable crafts, and this is going to be for the end, from 8 to midnight, part of our table setup. So that's what's being worked on. So there's stuff going on behind the scenes for this. I've gotten commitment from our sponsor at Miniature Building Authority to give money to St. Jude's. They're going to do sponsorship. I'm looking for more sponsors from other sites. So it's coming together, and I just wanted to let you know that we're dead serious about getting this thing and making sure this thing kicks off with a grandiose style at 8 o'clock in the morning that day. So
yeah, I'm really proud of you guys getting that organized. It's important. One of the things I'm going to be talking about is how community organizing in Greyhawk, and one of the things that is super important is to go where the people are. And that's what you guys are doing. And, you can't wait for people to come to you. You got to figure out where they are and go to them. And I'm really proud of you guys for putting that together and, making your audiences available to each other. That's really, really amazing.
Behind the scenes, we've put together a collaboration of now 7 streamers that all host each other. It's us, Wicked Studios LLC, Nightheart Gaming, Forsetti, Ukador. I'm missing TPK Games. I don't want to embarrass anyone if I'm missing them. Anna's in that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people, and they're all smaller streamers. So I've really ad hoced and put together. The 3 things I've looked for is this: Greyhawk, old school 1E, 2E, or miniature tabletop play. And that's the 3 things I've looked for, and that's kind of what's been going on in the community we've developed. And so we're going to keep on doing that. And, I'm having fun with that. I make new friends that way. I mean, like I said, we had the DMs Roundtable 2 weeks ago, and Skagith was making everyone laugh by all his comments. And he's a Swede, and he's gruff, but he's hysterical, and it's just, I would have never met him if I didn't we didn't reach out to each other. So, it's been a wonderful thing. So, some final thoughts, Mark. Do you have anything? And then I'll do 3 final quickies.
No, I mean, honestly, I would just like to extend my thanks to you, Bryan. I mean, everything it is that you've released us is absolutely beautiful.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic that, especially in today's day and age, about the things it is that we can actually do together as a group, and to find, growing up and so forth and doing the gaming that we did. Yeah, we were kind of in our own silo, and now within the last year or so, we've been able to expand out so much and meet people like yourself and meet people like Anna that are just great artists in what it is that they do, but they're also great people. So it's just absolutely fantastic to be associated with you, and just cannot thank you enough for all your assistance.
You're very welcome, and it truly is an honor for me to be on your show. I mean, I've always been this kind of person futzing about in the background, and not, I've never seen myself as someone in the foreground. And so this is kind of a new phase for me, being in front of a camera and talking to a lot of people. I've normally been that person that makes sure the trains run on time during events and whatnot, and making sure stuff happens. And it's different, and I feel like I'm finally at that space in my life where I can appreciate how your thankfulness for that, because it's sometimes hard for me to take that in and take it to heart, because it's just kind of like I'm always doing something and not always kind of thinking about, well, what is the total impact of what I've done on others. It really makes me feel good that you guys like what I've done.
We haven't even scratched the surface with Bryan, just like we didn't scratch the surface with Anna. He's got his own ideas in gaming, and we're going to have Bryan back with the collar chains finished. Maybe if he will come back. We'd love to have you with the collar chain, and we get the Altamira Heraldry up and talk about your ideas in the game. We didn't even get to that. We didn't scratch the surface on. You got some great ideas for gaming too. We should talk. I don't want you to think. We want everyone to understand that everyone's got their own game going on. Anna's got her own game. You got your own thing. We want to talk about that too, just so everyone knows there's all different types of DMs, all different types of campaigns out there. And you got your own idea with Dragonborn, right? And you got some things going. And I want to bring you back in the future and just talk about that to everyone, because I guarantee there's people out there who really want to know about that. I mean, because Mark's a big Dragonlance guy, so we really, that's something we need to discuss in the future. And we've been on almost 2.5 hours, and it's like we didn't even scratch the surface, So
It doesn't feel like 2.5 hours.
that's what I mean. That's what's going to happen at GaryCon. I'm telling you, it's going to fly by. And our shows fly by when we're having fun. I've had a blast tonight. So some quick announcements. Tomorrow night, Mark's group, finally, the Siege of Mordrin's watch the finale. Finally, I've said it 7 times, right? His group, will they be successful? Will they get slaughtered? We'll find out tomorrow night. I'll be playing Candace, the bandit, and I'll be zooming in on that. That's from 6 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern. And then you have, it's already up on the events. 2 weeks from then is something of Umbral Forge. I forget. Yes, and he'll continue with that. So Mark's group goes tomorrow night, and is every other week. And then Thursday night, I continue what I'm doing back to the battle site with the group The Reborn, and Garth Warmonger and Ace Broadhead. Some old school Knights of York have jumped in. And we will finish that adventure on Thursday night. That's 7:30 to 11, because we will hit 500 followers by then. There's no doubt about it. We may even get it tomorrow night. And that Best of the Dragon Volume 3 in the corner will be raffled off at 11 p.m. Eastern to a follower. It can be a brand new follower, but as long as you're on, you're eligible. We'll do the random die roll. I will mail it at my cost. We will give you away one of our favorite references. Just say thank you for 500 followers. We're so close. We're at 496. We'll get it. So thanks for that. And then next Sunday, this was actually Rox's idea, I believe. Rox, was this your idea? He wanted to hear stories, old school stories about our Order of Ulick and what we did when we were younger. And so Mark named it, Don't Read the Book, one of the most notorious things that happened in the campaign. So Tim has already said he's coming. Because it'll be me and hopefully Mark, Tim, Bill, maybe Alan. We want to just do storytelling time, and people can ask questions. We're just going to tell stories. That's all we're going to do. We'll drink a little bit, and we'll just have some fun with it, and just see where it goes. And we'll tell some old school stories. So that's what we'll do next week on next week's Gabbin, and then we'll go from there down the road. The events listing's set, so the mega stream is up on there, and that's good to go. So. When is that Anna's mapping stream next? Anna, you can answer that. Anna and I will be doing some stuff after GaryCon. I know that. We'll be doing some joint stuff, and I'm assuming Bryan will get in there with some heraldry stuff, and we'll have we'll have a big mashup. So, Bryan, any last words for you? Thank you so very much.
So, Mark, and my wife and I call that, it's not don't read that book, it's don't touch the wom.
Nice.
Never touch the wom. It's never good.
Oh man, you'll have to tell that next time you're on. You tell us that story. I can imagine.
Story behind it.
Pretty much, wom is like anything that is glowing or making a sound, and you just feel compelled to touch it. It never ends well. Ever.
I must touch it.
Must touch it. It's calling to me.
Well, what a blast, man! Hopefully this was like I said, it was as enriching for you as it was for us, because we had a blast tonight. Thank you.
It was an amazing experience. I appreciate you having me on and letting me babble away about one of my favorite subjects, even if it wasn't completely coherent. And it's just great to interact with people that are excited to be playing games and love the world that I love to play in, the world of Greyhawk. So I'm just happy to be here.
How about you, Mark? Any last words?
No.
Any last words?
Happy gaming, everybody. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Yeah. I promise it will be the end of it in one way, shape, or form.
I put finale down 3 times.
It has its place as well, but they're actually nearing the very, very end. So we shall see how everybody does, including Candace.
All right, I'm gonna run our mega stream and then run an NBA at the end. Everyone, all right. So thank you so very much for tonight. It was a blast. Once again, I'm Jay, aka Lord Gazumba, DM Marco, and our special guest tonight was Bryan Blumklotz, and showing what he did with us for Greyhawk Heraldry and all the great stuff he's done over the years. And please, as we always say, it doesn't matter what edition you play, as long as it's Greyhawk. You know, we are, you know, it's inclusive for everyone. And so, from an old school guy like myself and Mark, you know, just remember that. Thank you all. It was a wonderful evening and a wonderful time. And we'll have Bryan back down the road when we get the collar chain finished and some other things. And we'll talk some stories with him about some wonderful things in his campaign and what he's doing with his, you know, playing and DMing. And we'll shoot the shit down the road. So, all right, guys, thanks a lot. Everyone have a fantastic evening, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, see you tomorrow night for Marks.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye. Are we off?
I think so.
Your sound's still on. You guys' sound's still on. So give me 1 sec. 1 sec. I have to use the restroom.
Bio break. There we go.
Bryan, I do need to go myself, but it was great talking to you.
Pleasure, Marco. Look forward to talking with you again.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Ciao.
I'm still Bryan. Hang a sec, okay?
Sure.
Almost over.